Well, start this off. I was a man among giants, both figuratively and literally. One day on the train, I saw an ad for ex-athletes who wouldn't mind partaking in a testing experiment. All you had to do was work a shift for a month in an off-grid sports warehouse, and from the information I gathered, I'd be greatly compensated, of course. For me and everyone, times were tough. I was working 2 jobs and I didn't even have a place to live at the time. I just slept in the bathroom of one job before I went to the next. The world was disjointed from a recent market crash, and the dollar was worthless. A new method was being presented and it was taking everyone aback. Having a sense of uncertainty at the age of 24, along with my sense for something new and exciting, I decided to take up the gig. I would have a place to stay, be able to break the cycle of repetitive confusion for a while, and be compensated $1,000 a day up until the month is done. The entire thing sounded too good to be true, and I've always saw the late-night stories where a person would go for an ad on Craigslist or the paper and never be seen again. This being a government thing made me feel both secure and on edge. I swallowed my conspiracy theories and just decided to go down the hatch. That's a saying I always have used, coming up by the way, helps me with decisions and eases my nerves, can't explain it. Anyways, I took a leave from crappy jobs. My managers had gotten sick simultaneously. It was weird. They both were Asian, which added to the weirdness, thinking maybe it had to do with their country or something. But anyway, I didn't have family, my co-workers were the closest thing to it. So this was gonna be a vacation of sorts. I was driven about 20 miles outside of town. It was nothing but flat grass for miles. The place I was going, from what I understand, there is about 200 similar worldwide. When arrived from the outside, it was a huge someone. What normal sporting warehouse, the outside is similar to a Toys R Us. Huge glass windows, literally around 100 feet wide, and extremely thick. The situation had me very curious, and I pretty excited in a sense. Why would they have a building like this? The structure anomalies. On top, it being way out here, you guessed it. It's always something. Being this is a government testing or whatever, I had to prepare for the Twilight Zone in a sense. Turns out I am housed with these giants, and it may sound like I am very casual saying that, but I was subliminally told this when I had a phone interview. It really sketchy, by the way, asking if I had family, friends, if I believed in God, etc. But anyways, I never got the hint. These people were around 20 to 30 feet. They worked along with others my size. We all had tasks and were essentially there to interact with these huge humans. They were extremely kind to us, believe it or not, and were great at maneuvering around us. Not gonna lie, it was strange the first few weeks. I was essentially terrified at first, but after the 3rd week, it was pretty redundant. I became friends with one. I called him the Warren. He wore this military uniform and was older looking, but had the bowl cut everything, said he was very athletic looking more than the rest, but still looked middle-aged, battle-hardened in a sense. He became my best friend though, and BTW these giants didn't speak, but they interacted. It's very hard to explain. I know you think it's odd to would become friends with beings 3 times your size, but I guess we were just wired different. I mean, if you accept a government ad, you may be playing with half a deck. And to be honest, in a weird way, it never really registered to me what I was doing or where I was. By this time, my phrase down the hatch had been picked up on it around the place. I was saying it unknowingly a lot, but I was in a good mind state. Around this time, I'm in final days of this task. All in all, it was very out of this world, but I was glad to have had the experience. Anyway, I have 2 days left, and we were just informed some type of quarantine. There's a disease outbreak in Asia, and the soldiers here are getting deployed to the area, which means I would have to stay here until they came back from China, but I was told I would be given an extra 1,000 each day, which I agreed. To be honest, the situation made me think about my 2 Asian managers who were out sick. I thought I was overreacting, but then I realized where I was. After they gave us a breakdown of who was in charge and our structure for the next few days, and they would be back in a week tops, we were sealed in and they left. At first, everything was okay for the first few days, but that turned into weeks, and then months, and everyone started to become hostile. And what they didn't tell us was the factory was contracted by, you guessed it, China. What made matters worse, their economy had collapsed because of the virus, and it's been about 3 months. We have accepted that the military isn't coming back for us. Some of us have false hope, especially the normal-size humans, who mostly sit near the entrance. We were away from all of the chaos, and were there was the only a faint light that shined into the dark, damp building of Tangiers. This place. At this point, everything had been pillaged, no stocks. Supplies are extremely low, and of course the food. We only have sunlight in the daytime, which is faint, and the power's been out for about a month. It's gotten to the point where these once nice beings have started to eat each other, some even forming cliques. The smaller people who have survived are near the entrance. It's a huge concrete floor near huge windows, which overlooked a huge stadium-like parking lot, and beyond that was grassland. Kindled together, we heard unimaginable sounds around us, and you had beings halfway in the opening doors to the main entrance, which inside those doors was pitch black, and there were giants being eaten in the doorways by others around 200 yards away. The smaller of us who weren't eaten eventually started to escape. Since we were smaller, there were plenty of places to go if you could find them. Some would run into the darkness and you'd hear screams of terror, then nothing, or you'll see someone who looked like they'd been stepped on, maybe by mistake. I don't know, but it was that type of thing. On this particular day, many of us smaller humans were moving away from the main entrance window and decided to make a run for it. Me in particular. I was confident. Being an ex-athlete, I was extremely elusive, and I had seen others who escaped who were nowhere near my level, and I saw how the giants actually moved. So it really didn't seem that hard for me. It came the time where all of us began to escape. We were like roaches climbing up machinery, entering vents, entering emergency exits on the roofs. It was a full-fledged break. I was on one side the building and had to get all the way to other side, but I was cover ground quickly and the giants could not keep up. With adrenaline rushing, I was in the clear. Then to my right I saw a figure, the form like a sprinter, about 100 yards away. I realized it was the Warren. He was coming fast. And he closes in on me and no one else. The fact that he covered so much ground was incomprehensible. He was 100, then 30, then boom. Now I am in a cage, tied up, shaking, crying bloody hog, tied with no pants. Last thing I remember was being hoisted in the air with teeth closing down on my head. All I heard was, "Down the hatch."